I see you.
I see you.
Hell yeah.
All right.
I knew we'd figure it out if we just put our minds together.
Yeah.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Masculinity Matters. I am your host, Lomander, and today we are joined by Paul Menn of and of course, I didn't fucking have this in front of me, the Men Metal Mayhem podcast. You know what? I usually try to at least give a little bit of a spiel about people, but I feel like you're going to be able to describe who you are a hell of a lot better than I will. So, Paul, if you'd like to take it away.
Yeah. Well, my name is Paul. I am the host of the podcast Men Metal Mayhem with my two older brothers, and that's a podcast that we dive into the discographies of our favorite metal bands. We go track by track, album by album, chronologically. Just hang out, have a good time, and talk about what we like in the songs, what we don't like. Metal's our main focus. We did our first season on the band Soilwork, second
Nice.
season on Nevermore. And we're currently
Mm,
releasing our third season, which is about Christian metal bands. We all come from a very conservative evangelical background. And so as you listen to the episodes, you kind of get to know us and our background and where life has taken us. Yeah, so it's really just me and my two brothers hanging out.
nice.
And it's a good way. We all live in different states, and we missed hanging out with each other. So
And just
we
kind of
had
shooting the shit. Yeah.
yeah, we had the shared interest, and we thought, everybody's got a podcast. It can't be that hard. We can do this. If nobody listens to it but us, fine.
That's
But
fine. Yeah.
yeah, we have a lot of fun with it. And we talk the music, but we also kind of at top of the episode, we talk about where we were in our life when
Yeah.
an album came out. So, album came out in 2005. What were you doing in 2005? Where were you? And
Mm.
then as we dive into the lyrics also, and so a lot of times issues of masculinity and our struggles with depression, or I'm very open that I struggled with alcohol for a long time.
Mm.
I'm coming up on, I just hit 9 years sober a couple months back.
Congratulations,
Thank
dude. Way
you.
to fucking
Yeah.
go. Good shit.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it all just kind of comes out. It's just three brothers hanging out, having fun. In addition to that, I'm just a kind of middle-aged dude from the Midwest, with a wife and two kids, white picket fence in the suburbs. But
Living that American dream.
oh boy, don't know if the American dream exists anymore, but yeah,
I mean, there's definitely a version of it, I hear.
yeah.
So you do this with your brothers, right? So what exactly drove you guys to decide that this was what the podcast was going to be about? Is it just the shared interest that you guys have, or is this did you guys do bands together at some point?
No, we never did bands together. We all played instruments. My oldest brother, he's a pretty good drummer. He was in a ton of bands. Middle brother, Dave, he plays guitar. He's a really good guitarist, but he played in a couple bands, never really went anywhere. I
Hmm.
played bass. I was a vocalist, but we never played together, which is a real shame. It really just came about via, we had a brothers chat, thread that we would talk to each other in, and it was always something I wanted to do. And
Yeah.
then one day, my oldest brother John, he was like, "Hey, have you guys been? When was the last time you listened to Soil Work?" Like, because he was doing some project that he had a bunch of time, he needed to listen to music, so he was listening to
Yeah.
them, and he's like, "I wonder what the rankings are for, what people think is their favorite albums and what their best is." So it really just happened organically over
That's
the
awesome.
chat, and then as we were recording, I was like, guys, I've been dreaming about doing this for like 2 or 3 years, and it's finally happening.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
So you had said that you grew up evangelical Christian. One of the things that I grew up as well was also evangelical Christian. What sect were you? We were Methodist.
Okay, so I grew up in, I call it a soft cult. It was Calvary Chapel, and
Okay.
it's an evangelical denomination, and mostly just a loose affiliation of churches. And the church we went to growing up had a huge emphasis on the end times and the rapture and the
Oh,
coming.
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, the death cults, the
yes.
apocalypse cults.
And it
Oh,
and it
I
was
love those.
it was wonderful. And it was like it was before Left Behind came into
Hmm.
vogue. So like this was their bread and butter. Like so
How old
growing
are you?
up, I'm 37.
37. Okay, cool. So we're of an age. I'm
Yes.
35. So,
Perfect. Yeah, so that's where we grew up. And the way that Calvary Chapel is structured is there's not really a higher denominational oversight.
hmm,
So the head pastor of every church is sort of the end all be
the
all.
end all be all guy.
There are elders, but as happened at the church I had gone to, I think at one point the head pastor just fired all the elders. The church
Well,
split like three times. I mean,
jeez.
yeah, my family, we got kicked out because my dad, who is a longtime elder, he started to believe differently about the end times
Mm.
than the pastor in the church, and that led to
Was
us
it
getting kicked out.
was it one of those end times where it's like we have a responsibility to help bring it about, or were they just one of those like we know it's coming?
Thank God it was the second one.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it was very much that it was always right around the corner. You're
Hmm.
pumped with like a kept in a high state of fear and
Yeah.
anxiety, even though like you know that you're going to be raptured and then the world's going to go to shit while you're hanging out in heaven. But it was you were taught fear. You were taught to kind of be distrustful and afraid all the
Of
time.
everything.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So that is what I grew up in. And then after I left that, I think, God, I was 10 or 11 probably, maybe a little older when we got kicked out and went to just kind of the non-denominational evangelical kind of mega
Hmm.
church in the area. So
Okay.
that was my background.
Yeah, no, and I for me, growing up Methodist, we didn't really have a lot of like the rapture stuff
Hmm.
because I grew up in a extremely rural town in the Panhandle of Texas, about
Okay.
570 people total. And our average age of our entire church was like 60.
Yep.
So like all of the old people didn't give a shit about the end times, even if they were coming. It was just one of those like the rapture's gonna happen, and I'm too old to fucking worry about it, so I'm good. And so our pastors didn't really concentrate on that as much. But man, was my dad a conspiracy theorist and was like a Paul Lindsay guy or a Hal Lindsay guy.
Yeah. Yep.
And yeah, like and then 9/11 happened and oh, the rabbit holes we went into with that shit. So, one question that I always like to ask people whenever they come on, and I usually at some point in time I would like to have people come back and such and see kind of how this question evolves over time. But the main question that I like to ask people right off the bat is, what is a man, and what does that mean to you?
That is a really good question. It's
I love that that is I've done this will be the fourth one of these I've done so far, and this is four for four. That
yeah,
everybody's like, that is a great question.
yeah.
Hmm.
It's it's one of those things, so often I think my touch point for that kind of question is the conservative grifter people being like, well, define a woman for me, or
Yep.
what is a woman? What is a man? I mean,
That's part of the reason why I did it is because I saw that Matt Walsh "What is a
yeah,
woman" thing, and I was
geez.
like, "This is the most disingenuous piece of shit I've ever heard in my life." And then I was like, "Well, whenever I'm doing a podcast about masculinity, fuck it. Why not? What is a
Yeah,
man then? Let's reverse this and just see if we can't come to a consensus of what that is."
yeah. So I think it's a great question because it's essentially the same question, but it's I think coming from a place of genuine interest and not as a gotcha, look at,
Hmm.
this person can't even define what a woman or a man is.
Yeah. So how can they talk to us about gender? Yeah.
Right. Yeah, because I mean, being a man, quote unquote, I think it goes beyond. I'm just gonna go for it. I think it goes beyond, your biology. I think
Yeah.
being a man is, oh, it's hard for me to articulate. And I think
Right?
that's what makes this a very good question. And I'm glad I didn't get it ahead of time, uh, to have time to really think about it. So you could see that me wrestling in real time, I'm not sure what a man is. I think,
That is the most honest answer I've probably heard in a really long time. Is
oh,
because straight up being like, man, I don't even really fucking know, to be honest. But like,
yeah,
because to me it feels like being a man is such a broad category that can be defined in so many different ways and so many different aspects. And there are certain things that just like you can just kind of tell certain people, for instance, like, now that's a fucking man right there.
yeah,
And there's something, it's not really anything specific. It's just a certain je ne sais quoi that they have about them
right.
that like makes that thing. So for me, like what being a man to me means is being a place of strength and being a place of security. For me, I feel like the ultimate marker of a man, of what could be defined as like a true man or whatever, is somebody who is secure enough in himself that others around him feel secure enough and safe enough to be themselves. And providing that sense of security is not necessarily foundational per se, but I think it's an important aspect of it.
Yes, agreed.
And yeah,
Yeah,
and I think that like sometimes it kind of translates for some people into like providing and that sort of a thing.
mhm.
But at the end of the day, you're trying to add a sense of security to somebody through those actions.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think I don't know what the Platonic ideal of man is, but I know what aspects there are of man. I think security is a really good one. And actually, prior to coming on this, I'm sitting at the table with my family. I have an 8-year-old daughter. Well,
Mhm.
she's she's 7. She's gonna be 8 next month, and they're getting so
They grow
big.
fast,
They
man.
do. But I was like, what? I asked her, what does it mean to be a good man? And one of the things she said was, I think you want somebody who goes to work, which I think in her mind means like provides, but
Yeah.
then after that spends time with kids, And so she wants somebody who both provides but also sees her and doesn't just ignore her. So providing
Yeah.
that sense of security and stability, I think, is a huge part, of being a man. And, she said, somebody who doesn't hit me,
Hmm.
we'd had a conversation a couple days ago about spanking. And so growing up, I was spanked as a kid. And it, for whatever reason, it came up. And she was like, what is that? I was like, girl, you will never know because I'm never going to spank you
Yeah.
because I don't think that a parent should hit their child because ultimately I think that creates it can make the child feel really unsafe. And I would
Yeah.
never want to do that to my kids. So
Yeah. No. Well, and like I know that like as a kid, I was always threatened with spankings. Because my grandfather, whenever I was 3 years old, made goddamn sure that the spanking that he gave me, for the more that I think about it, the more it was like it was just a really shitty thing to spank a kid for.
yeah,
I was running through the house because I'm a shithead kid. I do like kids do that shit whenever they're super young, and I was in socks and we have like tile floors. So obviously shit's a little slick. I come around a corner and like I knock over this like marble table, this marble end table.
yep.
And I get like the topper on this table is like 150 pounds. So like when it fell right beside me. And like it could have really hurt me. And I
Yep.
get why it freaked him out as a 70, 68, 65, 70-year-old man. I get why it freaked him out. Um, but either way, I came around a corner and it was an accident. And
Yeah.
like I fell, I kind of hurt myself a little bit. I didn't, get too bad. But he made sure that like I wasn't going to do that shit again and he spanked me with a ping pong paddle.
Oof.
And I remembered from that day what that felt like. And because of that, I never stepped out of line again.
Hmm.
It wasn't because I respected what his rules were. It wasn't because I respected how he did things and what he wanted me to do. It was because I was fucking terrified of him.
Yeah.
I didn't want to have that repeat again because to my mind at least, and I'm not a parent. Unfortunately, I think that boat has sailed for me. And the world being what it is, I don't know if I would like to bring a kid into this thing at this current juncture.
Yep.
Um, and like by the way, kudos, man. Like with how much stress I imagine this world is on top of like knowing that your kids are being growing up in that, man, like fucking kudos. If you ever need anybody to just like vent to, I got you. I got you,
Okay.
my boy.
Perfect.
um but but like to me it's like you as the parent and not even just like the father but like the parent in general, you want to be the most secure, safe person in your child's life.
Hmm.
So why would you hurt them
Yeah.
intentionally? And like that to me just feels like hurting your child turns you into their abuser.
Yeah.
And like as a parent, I don't feel like that's supposed to be your role, even if both of my parents decided that was theirs.
Yeah.
So yeah, like kudos for like breaking that fucking cycle, man.
Yeah. I didn't get spanked a lot. The one time I really remember, I don't want to say I deserved it, but I was playing with my sister and summer day we had a sandbox and we were like, oh, we'll build a castle and fill the moat. And so we put a hose in there and turned it on and then just forgot about it and like flooded the whole yard. So
Yep.
I was like, I don't know, maybe that one.
I
But
mean, it's a lot of water, but at the same time, how old were you?
God, I was young, maybe six.
Okay,
It's
so
like
this
that's
was
what
like
kids
the
do.
90s,
Yeah.
probably. Yeah,
What?
like it's
Yeah.
like water was super cheap back then. We weren't running out of it. There weren't
No.
Nestle like fucking stealing all of it. So
Oh.
I don't know. I don't think it's a spankable offense personally.
Yeah. So I mean, I didn't get spanked a lot. But yeah, we I come from a family of six kids, and
Oh damn.
we all got spanked, and you know, to varying degrees did it affect us. But I want to say none of them were all that positive. I don't
Yeah.
think anybody in my family's like, I'm glad I got spanked. It really turned me into a better person.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I think is really interesting, especially whenever you think about like the toxic masculinity that we see
Hmm.
online and such like that with the guys who are just like, "Well, I got spanked and I turned out fine." And then you actually look at some of their rhetoric and you're like, "Did you turn out fine?" Cuz like, I don't know if you should be calling all women bitches, especially
Yeah,
the ones that you like. Like, I don't
yeah,
feel like you turned out fine, my guy.
right. Agree. And the whole concept of, well, I suffered through something, therefore you should as well, is just fundamentally the stupidest idea.
Right? Okay. I'm so glad that you said this because I have been on this fucking train for the last 5 years that has basically said our ancestors have spent all of these thousands of years, these generations, making things better and making things easier for everybody past them. Why the shit would you make somebody then the next generation suffer because you suffered? Like, what?
Yeah, I mean, I think society evolved and formed so that things would be easier for people collectively. And to
That
see
was always
this,
my thought.
boy, me too. But then to see this whole shift, You know what? I got mine. Fuck you.
The hyper individualism has been absolutely wild. As an esoteric practitioner who like does a lot of like ancestral work, and
hmm
like I feel like I have a direct line like with my ancestors and such like that.
Yeah.
That is one of the big things that is a royal disconnect between like my understanding of the world as it is and their understanding of the world as they remembered it. And it's just like, why is everybody just so individualistically shitty?
Yeah.
Like why is everybody trying to screw the other person to get ahead when the other person isn't even trying to make their lives worse? Like, so yeah, it seems like it's a fundamental flaw in a certain system that we have decided to all fall under, where certain people have certain powers of the purse, trying to avoid that big C word so that we don't get the right wingers all turned off. That's why we
Yeah.
avoid the P word here around here too. Um, so you said you grew up with six siblings. What was that makeup like, gender wise?
So it was three boys, three girls.
Man, you guys are all about even in
We
y'all's
are
family.
split down the center. I'm the fifth youngest. I got a younger sister, and everybody else is older than me. But so
Please
the
tell me it was staggered, like male, female, female, male, like that sort of a thing.
so it's my oldest sister, then my two brothers, then there's a bit
Okay,
of a gap, and then it's my sister who's like a year and a half older than me, and then my younger sister. So
man.
yeah.
Okay. So how much older are your brothers than you?
Gosh, my brother Dave is 4 years older than me, 4 to 5, somewhere in there, and then brother John is 5 or 6. So it's
Okay.
yeah,
Okay,
not
cool.
that.
So like not super gapped.
Yeah, growing up when I was, young, there was that divide. I had my sister who was closer in age to me, but once I got to become kind of a teenager, we got a lot closer. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
So what was the influence that they had, like having two older brothers, especially though that much older, in your life, I'm sure kind of helped you kind of develop what masculinity and what like being a man is and such like that. How do you feel like they have helped kind of shape that for you?
that is also another really good question. And for the longest time, I sort of saw myself as kind of a distillation of both of them because my oldest brother
Mm,
John, growing up, like he was the outgoing guy. He was, kind of life of the party, very extroverted. My brother Dave, exact opposite, total introvert, just ultra nerd and artistic. He played guitar, he would make up board games and just do all this really kind of
oh
cerebral
damn. All
stuff.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then I was kind of I was a mix of them.
Nice.
I was outgoing, but definitely had that more kind of introverted bent. Um,
Yeah, so kind of like an ambivert type.
yeah, yeah, and
Okay.
then yeah. So my older brother John, he's the oldest, he's the extrovert. Just seeing him, you know, be able to hang out with any and everybody. So we went to a relatively small Christian school. So most people probably had to hang out with everybody. But
Hmm.
he could, at least to me, it looked like he could move across, various cliques. And
Yeah.
so he was popular, but he wasn't a dick about it, right?
Okay.
At least
Yeah.
that is what I saw. And so I think that probably really helped me to have that same mentality. Like
Okay.
I was, again, small school, but I was friends with everybody. I was relatively popular, and I just didn't ever try to make people feel bad.
Well, and I mean, it's kind of I don't know. I feel like I've been very fortunate in that I have met most of the men, especially the ones that I've talked to on here, um, typically follow the golden rule, which is just like treat people how you want to be treated, and most people want to be treated nice.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yep.
What about your dad? Like, was your dad present in the home or divorced or anything like that?
So yeah, he was present. He worked. He was a lawyer, and he's still, I say were, but he's still with us. But
Yeah.
he traveled a fair amount when I was a kid, because he was busy being a practicing trial lawyer. I have a fraught relationship with my parents now, but growing up, I do remember some really, really good times. Like I remember my dad being on the ground playing with me when I was a
Mm,
young kid. And
that's
that
nice.
it it really is. And so having kids of my own, I made sure and I still make sure to do that because I think that is one of the most valuable things you can give a child is to just be at their level and to engage with them and with what they're doing.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, no, that's really great. Like,
Yeah.
so it sounds to me like while your dad probably Well, your dad probably didn't like shape the way that like you present in the world. It does seem like he did give you some things that help with your manifestation of masculinity and manliness and that sort of a thing. It sounds like especially with by the way that he showed you compassion and care as a
Hmm.
father, and that translates to at least from what I can see and what I've heard into the way that you treat your kids as well. And I think that that's really great. And that's something that I don't think that a lot of people talk about is that when you see fathers in media and shit like that, they're always either like the authoritarian type
Hmm.
or they're the get walked all over because they're just kind of I don't know why I'm trying to censor myself here. They're just too stupid to be able to figure out what their kids are doing.
Right.
And one of the things that I think that is really missing in media representation is like the softness that fathers have for their children and not just specifically for their girls.
Yes.
Because one of the things that I've heard a lot, it's not something that I specifically experienced. My father was very much an absentee dad,
Hmm.
and didn't like affection. We'll put it that way. So but like whenever I hear and a lot of people talking about like how their fathers affected them as children, I hear all about like the softness, like what you were saying, where it's like
Hmm.
he was playing with you on the floor and stuff like that. And I don't know. I feel like that's something that needs to be talked about more is just it's okay to have like that level of emotional intelligence and that level of emotional expression as a man, despite the fact of that when we're in our teenage years and our 20s, I would argue up until into our mid 30s even that like emotions are bad and like women do the emotional shit, men do the logical stuff and all that.
Hmm.
But like at the end of the day, I'm more emotional than like half the women in my fucking life.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so. Yeah. Media portrayals of dads, media portrayals of most people is pretty egregious.
Yeah.
There's whatever for the purpose of having a narrative and a conflict. Yes, you lean into tropes. It would be nice to see like a competent, loving dad. I'm sure there's examples out there.
There
I
has to be,
I
right?
I couldn't tell you though, because immediately I'm just thinking of all the, yeah, the ones that are either like the real I'm a man's man, I'm stern, I don't show emotions, or like
I'm
the
thinking of Red from that
yeah,
70s show.
yep, or
That
you
that to me is like your stereotypical TV dad.
yeah, yeah, it's the Tim Allen, the
Hmm.
one character he plays of just like I can't show emotion, I'm a man.
Yeah, that
and,
Christ.
and it's
That's a memory.
yeah, yeah. And so, but being able to have emotional intelligence, I mean, that's the right word for it.
Yeah.
And to be able to show that to your children, especially to your boy children, is huge
Do you know
because,
who I think need? Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah, because I think then that trains them from a young age to understand emotion, which is their own emotions and others' emotions. And so,
Which is a huge problem that we have today, especially with Gen Alpha coming up,
mhm,
is that the Gen X and millennials, we weren't really raised with a lot of emotional intelligence, and especially as men, we weren't
mhm,
really raised with the proper ways to express our own emotions.
yeah,
And I would argue that over the course of, I don't know, 30 years between 80 and 2010, we were kind of going through this like anti-emotion, like male driving, I don't know, this like anti-emotion movement in like masculine spaces and in like
yeah,
male spaces. And because of that, we've got these kids that are in this new generation that are being raised by these men who have no emotional intelligence and are just treating them like their dads treated that, or treating their kids like their dads treated them. And then now we've got all of these fucking dudes out here, red pill types, who are listening to people like Andrew Tate and are sitting here going like, "Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. Emotions are fucking stupid. And I just need to tell these bitches what's what."
uh, yeah. So I think that millennial men, at least the ones I know, we tried
Yeah.
to become emotionally intelligent and we put the work in. But I think also it's who are the parents of the Gen Alphas and the Gen Zs? Is it millennials? Because I'm like, did you try to give nothing to these kids? That they're
Right.
all falling prey?
So I'm not trying to shit on other generations here or anything, but I feel like of all the parents that I've met of shitty dudes and shitty younger dudes, most of them are Gen X.
Okay. That tracks for me.
And that's not a knock on Gen
Yeah.
X men. Like when we talk about the forgotten generation, I would argue that like Gen X men are a forgotten generation of sorts because I remember, so one of the things about being a cusper is you get kind of the X experience and the millennial
Hmm.
experience. You know better than I do even because you're more of a cusper than I am.
Yeah.
So like you kind of get both of those experiences. And I remember that, like, my first interaction with feminism in general were what we called at the time feminazis. They were the ones that, like, all men are shit. All men deserve to die. Fuck men. Fuck their feelings. Make them feel like shit. They have been the oppressors this entire time, so they can get fucked.
Hmm.
Now, you're right, men have been the oppressive class since well, at the very least, since capitalism and like Western imperialism and all of that kind of shit.
Yep.
I'm not going to try to put a date on it,
Right.
but we've been the head honchos for quite a motherfucking while, and they're right about that. But at the same time, I think that the over alienation and the kind of pendulum swing of like hating men and basically kind of treating men as if they are not worth even listening to, I think affected a hell of a lot of Gen X men and older millennials in a way that we're kind of seeing the outcome of it now. And that's not to say that they don't have any culpability, because at the end of the day, we're all responsible for our own actions. We're all responsible for how we react to those stimuli. But at the same time, I don't know. I feel like if instead of creating a battle of the sexes where we hate each other, if we would have created a battle for the sexes where we're both trying to like get more understanding of each other, I don't know. Maybe that would have been better. Maybe we wouldn't have so much red pill shit happening right now. Maybe there wouldn't be a couple of fascists in the fucking White House. But
Uh,
who knows? Who
if if
knows?
we could turn back time,
If we could find a way.
yeah, I take your point. I think yes, I think Gen X, I think a lot of the media that they consumed and the messages they were given was very much it was all like everything was ironic and there was such a they were taught in apathy, I
Hmm.
think, and that
Yes.
it was cool not to care, which I think also at the same time though, yes, there if I'm remembering things correctly, there was a wave of feminism in the 90s. I mean that you had so many singer-songwriters, female artists, and I and while I'm sure that there were a subsect of women that were like, fuck all men, I think that message, even if it was very small in reality, got
Yeah.
amplified
Oh
by the
yeah.
by the media and it was
Because it
ratcheted up.
creates because it
Yep,
creates controversy. It
yep,
creates what would have been then their version of clicks.
yep. So
And
yeah,
that's capitalism, baby. It's capitalism fucking us again. Anyway,
divide and conquer really is what it
exactly.
comes down to. And now we are reaping the bitter harvest of that with these terrible fucking red pill influencers. I mean, Andrew Tate being kind of the most high profile
Yeah.
worst, but then you have the faux intellectuals like Jordan
Dude.
Balthazar Peterson, who I think the thing that really gets me about him is, at least at the beginning, I'm not super familiar with him. I mostly just know
Yeah.
about him through memes, but
Same.
there's a kernel of a good idea there. He has his like 12 rules, and one of them, like what his big thing originally was like, you need to clean your room or like make your bed or something like
Yeah.
that. And it's like,
It was like discipline type shit.
yes, it was have some discipline. And that I fundamentally is not a bad message.
Yeah.
People need discipline, but having a very simple, straightforward, basic message doesn't get you famous. It
Hmm.
doesn't sell books. So he's gone from have some discipline, make your room. Here are some basic things you can do to Elmo is, an Islamic jihadist who's going to tear down Western civilization,
Western society.
which is just a fucking insane leap. And I am not going to try to pretend to understand it, but I think ultimately it's very much like they have to keep ratcheting up their message.
Hmm.
Because if you just give this plain, consistent, simple message, people are going to want more.
Yeah, and I think that like we needlessly complicate things that are actually fairly simple,
Yeah,
and then we oversimplify things that need a lot of nuance. And
well put.
I think that that's one of the problems that happens in a lot of those like right-wing influencer spaces and like the red pill spaces is that somebody like Jordan Peterson can come up with, like 12 rules or 12
Hmm.
things to follow to be a good man and all that. And when you look at it, like you say, it comes in like eating right, keeping good discipline, maintaining healthy habits and shit like that. And then boom, like that's like you say, it's great advice. It's
Yeah.
really good shit to follow, and it gives you a good blueprint on how to make yourself feel better internally. And then the books stop selling because like now that people have figured out how their life works, then like they don't need more advice,
Hmm.
at least on that aspect of it. But now they need advice on like, okay, well now that I know how to be a good man for myself, how can I show that I'm a good man for other people? Because like at the end of the day, I want to get laid.
Yeah.
And then now Jordan Peterson he's taking a big problem that we overcomplicate, which is self-care and how to be a good man for me, for you, for like the person inside. And he's narrowed it down to a simple solution, 12 steps, whatever.
Hmm.
But then he takes this this other issue that seems simple. After like if I figured out how to be a good man for myself, then I should very obviously be able to show that to other people, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's a hell of a lot more complicated than that. And what he does is he takes this big, huge, overcomplicated problem and then tries to turn it into a simple fix when there needs to be a fuck ton more nuance involved.
Yeah.
because the way that you can present yourself as a safe man to another man, for instance, is completely different than what makes a woman feel safe
Yeah.
around you.
Yeah.
And even further to go beyond that, what makes a trans person feel safe around you is completely different than what a cis woman or a cis man
Yeah.
would require. Or you meet four people of all of those different gender markers and they all fucking act the same and they all can be treated the same. And like it's there's so much nuance and involved in like how to maneuver in the world that they try to create this simplistic fix,
Hmm.
which inevitably turns into, well, it's all about me still.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
the simple fixes are the ones that only affect you, because if I'm trying to fix something and there's only one opinion I need in order to do that, that one opinion is going to be fairly easy to sway.
Yeah.
If I've got 50 people in the room, I've got to convince 50 people of this thing. And like, that's going to be a hell of a lot more difficult than convincing the one person who is me.
Hmm.
So I think that like the hyper individualism that we have here in the West has also kind of exacerbated that issue. Because one of the things that I'm curious about is like having brothers and all of that kind of stuff. Did you feel like you had a sense of community with other men growing up, or boys, I guess?
So that is another really good question.
I'm
Growing,
full of them tonight.
you are, man, you are crushing it. So growing up, I tended to have a lot more friends that were girls.
Okay.
I was closer to a lot of girls. I had I had some good male friends, but especially when I was a teenager, I was all my best friends were girls. Um, yeah. So I didn't necessarily have a really strong male community.
Interesting.
Yeah. And you go. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so like that sounds really interesting to me, especially because like for me, growing up in the tiny ass fucking town that I did, and being a bit off mean for that town, rural Texas is very cowboy, is very
Yeah.
rodeo centered. And as somebody who listened to Killswitch Engage and like Slipknot and all of that type of shit, and was really, really, really into the whole goth aesthetic,
Yep.
not really somebody that fits in super well in those environs. But at the same time, there was an expectation that I would hang out with boys, that I would hang out with these dudes and all that type of shit, whether we got along or not, whether we
Right.
had the similar interests or not. The expectation was that I would have to like hang out with these people. And as somebody who frankly was a bit more effeminate, um a
Same
lot of
here.
my a lot of my mannerisms I frankly I got called an F slur a lot as a kid. And I recognize that that's just because like I was acting in a way that some people wouldn't consider masculine. And then I started growing my hair out and shit was over.
Hmm.
Um, and and there was this expectation that like I had to fit into this certain view and this or not view, but I had to fit into this certain like box as to what a male presentation was. I mean, for God's sakes, I remember very distinctly when I was like 19 even. And I was still living in the same town. I was working for an oil field company and I was standing on a job site with my hands like on my hips, but instead of my fingers being forward, I had my thumbs forward and my hands
Oh,
back. I was standing like this. Holy shit. If that wasn't the most like bitch thing that these people have ever seen a man do. And like it was at that moment that I was like, man, this is fucking stupid. Like I'm just dude, this is just a comfortable way to stand.
yeah.
I don't know if you've
Yeah.
ever seen the video of will you look at that? We look with the car. The way that that guy stands was how I was standing, and these people were like, "Oh, look at this fucking bitch over here."
Yeah,
Um, but then
yeah.
like getting into the rock and metal scene and shit like that in the town over, because there was no metal scene in the town I grew up in. Um, but like getting into that scene again, it was a very male dominated, but the way that they presented their version of masculinity was like really there was a lot of like camaraderie and a lot of
Hmm.
like you're part of a group that will defend you
Yeah,
because the fucking normies hate us,
yeah,
and like we're willing to accept these different ways and different modes of acting because there's safety in numbers, and we all have this one thing that we all agree on, which is like drop D's a badass fucking tuning and it sounds cool as shit when people chug fucking chords.
hell yeah, hell yeah.
But with that being said, I did notice that as you get into bigger cities and shit where like that's a more common thing, you start running into the same bullshit that I would run into in my hometown, which is like, oh, oh, fuck, you listen to Stone Sour, you pussy. That's bitch music. And and of course this is coming from the guy with the Meshuggah shirt on.
Yeah,
So I'm
yep.
over here, I'm just like, oh, okay, so like what's fucking cool about Meshuggah or whatever the fuck. And then I listen to it and I'm like, all right,
All
maybe this
right,
is pretty
okay.
fucking badass. All
They
right,
won it.
whatever.
They won this one.
Right? It's like, all
Yeah,
right, so maybe this is pretty fucking cool. But fuck you, man.
yeah,
Was that something that you had to deal with? Because I know that like you are just based on your podcast, you guys are into a hell of a lot heavier shit than I ever was. Um, I like a fair amount of it now. Like
yeah,
whenever you mentioned Soil Work, I was like, fuck yeah, man. I've listened to like four of their songs.
yeah.
But like, was that something that you had to deal with? And also like, what was the type of area that you grew up in and like were kind of coming up in? Like, how big
Oh,
was it?
yeah. So I grew up in Wisconsin. It's Appleton, Wisconsin. So decent sized city, a lot going on around it. It's by
Yeah,
Green Bay, a little north of Milwaukee. And so there was actually a really big like metalcore and hardcore scene there.
nice.
Early 2000s. That was a bunch of local bands, regional bands would come through. And so I would go and hang out, and all those guys at that time, it was all skinny jeans and tight black shirts with pocket
Hell yeah.
flags. So despite being like metal, they all and we all still look pretty effeminate.
Yep.
And
The emo aesthetic.
yeah, it was harder than emo, but it still looked kind of the same.
Yeah.
And so I would go to those shows, and I was a little young, I was younger than my brothers, but I'd tag along with them. And my oldest brother, he's the one that was really into the metalcore. And I was like, yeah, I'll listen to it. I like it, but I was just kind of a snob, which I
I mean,
get.
I think we all are at that
We
age.
we all are. Yeah, I was like, I'm 13, of course I know. Meanwhile, I'm looking like a fucking like, metrosexual goth, because I was really into like electropop and
Oh,
synth
nice.
and synth
Okay.
pop. So like
Okay.
B&V Nation and a Pop Digma Berserk and all, the Birthday Massacre. Like
Okay.
I was such a little like fade little goth boy at that time.
Man, we would have gotten along so great.
We absolutely would have been best friends.
Ah,
But
I wish we'd
so
have grown up in the same area. That would have been
yeah.
cool.
So I listened to that, and then I also listened to, like true metal, and
Hmm.
thought I was better than
Okay, okay. Now you said true metal, you got to drop some names. Like, who are we listening to?
Yeah.
Who are the true metal guys back then?
Well, back then to me it was like, oh, it was soil work because they were
Okay.
European. So
Oh, no, that is a hell of a pedigree. That is a hell of a pedigree, and I will
yeah.
not have people knock that. As an American, any metal from across the pond is automatically 10 times cooler than whatever the fuck came from here.
Yeah. So I mean, like we were into, In Flames is the big one, kind of before they
Ah,
went.
Love and Flames.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fell out of them in the mid 2000s, but like their early stuff we were huge into. Dark Tranquility, Opeth. That was a
Oh,
big
Beth.
one. And then, you get into more kind of the sad boy, Porcupine Tree,
Okay.
which metal adjacent. Yeah, those were the big ones. And like, I was also really into power metal as a kid, apparently. Like, looking back, I listened to a lot of Blind Guardian and it's kind of like cheesy,
Okay.
but like,
Okay.
but they're shredding and they're really technical. So I was
Yeah.
like, they got goofy ass, it's all high register and they're singing about Lord of the Rings and it's the nerdiest shit in the world, but man, they can play and it's really cool because,
I mean, I can't
they're,
say shit. I got obsessed with 3 Inches of Blood for like two
yeah,
years there
yeah,
because Deadly Sinners is just like one of the most ridiculous sung songs that I've ever heard in my fucking life. But God, does it not get my fucking blood pumping?
yeah. So I listen to a diverse amount of metal, but the scene where I grew up, it was all metalcore and
Okay.
hardcore. Um,
So, did you get any shit for, I mean, obviously, like, not for the dress as much, but like, were there any like behaviors or anything that were policed?
no, I mean, you would go to these shows, and even though I was a lot, I was typically about 3 or 4 years younger than most of the people at the show, the
Yeah.
majority. It it always felt very safe. People are doing spin kicks in the pit, but if somebody got knocked down, you pick them right back up.
Yeah.
It it was a very communal, safe space, and I think that's one reason why I gravitated towards it and I really enjoyed it is because I was like, okay, this feels like home. Like this feels like a
Yeah.
nice place, even if you don't know somebody, you'd still chat them up and be like, yeah, that band fucking ruled, and you would have that shared interest.
Yeah, yeah, because
So
you're both already at a thing that you
yeah,
both like, so you have that connecting tissue already, and that's really interesting because like my experience with my scene was very much, it was a lot more like Texas metal,
yeah,
like the big ones that everybody absolutely loved was Pantera and
yep,
Damage Plan, shit like
mm-hmm,
that. And so because of that, that was like the thrash metal and the speed metal and shit like that were the ones that really took hold in the scene that I was at. And of course, me being like a metalcore kid, I knew that if I did the skinny jeans, the emo
yeah,
shirt, and all that kind of shit, well, then like obviously I'm an F slur, and like
right.
I'm gonna get that type of shit because I'm
Some
not fucking hard enough.
some 300-pound dude and like a denim vest who just got out of prison and a Pantera shirt's gonna, yeah, take
Yeah,
you
with
out at the
a
show.
Pantera shirt and an SS fucking tattoo. I know
I
exactly the guy you're talking about,
Yeah,
actually.
I saw that dude. I saw it was Hatebreed, and they were opening for Typo Negative, who I was a fan of. And a dude straight up, he had a shirt that had the 14 words on it, and I was maybe 18 or 19 at the
Yeah.
show alone, and I was like, I kind of knew about that, but I was like, oh, I can tell this is not cool.
Yeah,
Um,
no, and that was one thing, like not to throw shade at fucking Hatebreed or anything, because I don't know anything about like their members, their background, or anything like that.
yeah,
But just in my experience, not every Hatebreed fan was a racist or a Nazi, but every Nazi I met was a real big fan of fucking Hatebreed. Um,
yep,
yeah, and I'm realizing that that's a big connecting tissue with a lot of the people in the scene that I was a part of way back when. But anyway, so because I knew I couldn't get like the skinny jeans and all that kind of shit pulled off, like that's why I wore trip pants. That's
yeah,
why I wore like trip pants and like the denim vest and
yep,
shit like that, and I had a battle jacket and the whole nine. Was because like that was a performative thing that I felt that I needed to do in order to feel accepted by this niche group that was already like more accepting
hmm
of quote unquote off mean masculine things. And I think that one of the things that I find really interesting now is whenever I see the scene here where I live now, which I live in DFW now, so
hmm
like fucking night day,
yeah.
and when I say night day, I'm talking like pitch black on a fucking new moon night and a fucking middle of the day in the Caribbean, night and day difference. Um, there's a lot more expressions of masculinity and like of dude expressions in the scene down here than I ever could have gotten away with where I was from. So the idea that like for you, the scene in the whole was very, very welcoming of like what I would argue is different expressions of masculinity, is really, really interesting to me because I always found it to be constricting in behavior. Maybe not constricting in behavior as much as constrictive in appearance, I
Yeah.
guess. Which is funny because all of the guys wearing skinny jeans and the tight emo shirts were the ones who were always getting girls.
Yeah. Absolutely they were. And they'd all share pants. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
That
And
was
that was yeah. I
that's
really
a,
envied my friend, shout out fucking Pangle for like turning me on game on that shit where he was like, yeah, dude, like having a girlfriend's fucking great. My wardrobe has doubled. And I'm like,
yeah.
what? What do you mean? He's like, yeah, she wears band shirts too, and we wear the same size pants.
Yeah. We each wear the 00 skinny jeans from Forever 21. So
Shit was crazy. And the funny thing about it is now is like now I'm fucking 35. I'm living with my partner and shit like that. And fuck, we trade pants
yeah.
because we both wear the similar type of cut of pants.
Yeah.
And I think that's really fucking hilarious because like back then I was like, "Oh my God, you're wearing girl jeans?"
Right. Oh, we
What?
used to worry so much about appearances and that I mean, I I feel like I probably did worry about appearances, but I was in a weird spot where so I raised evangelical Christian, went to the Christian school. So yes, I tried to look like uh goth or, kind of like that. But when I would meet actual goths or people in that scene, I was not anywhere close to them. So
Mm-hmm.
but I wasn't normie enough to like be with the normies, but not goth enough to be with the goth. So I was always in this kind of middle ground, and I just was like, you know what? Fuck it, I don't care. This is what I got. I like my look, and I just went with that. And I think maybe having that kind of confidence and self-assurance,
Yeah.
really, really helped out because I would see other people just it's like, God, it looks like you put so much time into that. And it looks cool, but I think you're worrying
Couldn't
way
be
too
me.
much out about what other people think.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and that was like I had a very similar experience too, because like in my like trip pants, battle jacket, and
hmm
all that kind of shit. Like I didn't do like makeup or anything like
yeah,
that. Cause who if I'd have done that in front of my dad, my
yeah.
God, I'm sure I'd have gotten thrown out the fucking house. He called me an F slur for dyeing my fucking hair
Oh,
blood red. Like right here in this.
yeah.
I've talked about this. If you've watched the previous episodes, I know I've talked about this. But like, I got a dye job like right here in the very center, and like people would tell me like, dude, it looks like somebody hit you in the head with an axe, and that like you're bleeding and shit. And I'm like, that's fucking
Yeah,
metal. I love that.
yeah.
My dad sees it and he's just like, I'm like, well, what do you think of it? And he's like, well, I think you look like a F slur.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Well, thanks, Dad. Appreciate you being so supportive of something that makes me happy. But whatever.
yeah.
But like I'm sitting here in like all of this stuff, and then I go to a show here in Dallas. And I'm like 20.
hmm
I don't live down here at this point. I still live in my little podunk country town. And I am in full battle rattle. Like I've got all of my stuff on. I've got like
Yeah,
4 or 5 chains. I've got like my fucking fingerless gloves with the little fucking spikes on them and
yeah,
shit. I am ready. I've got my like fucking demonia boots with
yeah.
like the thick soles that make me 6 foot tall.
Oh, yeah,
And I walk into this fucking it was a drowning pool, mud vein, and shit. There was another the headliner was like the hardest band of all of
yeah,
them. And I can't remember who it was now for the life of me. But anyway, I go to this fucking show and I bring a couple of friends with me because we're all huge Mudvayne fans. And I walk into this thing and we're very obviously like trying to find who's in our same vein and shit like that. And I
yeah.
look over and I see like the trip pants wearing people, and I'm just like, damn, all right, that's gonna be. And then they turn around and I see their faces, and they're all goth makeup and like
Yeah.
face paint and shit. I'm like, oh fuck, I can't fit it with. And then I look over and I see the denim jackets and a lot of chains and shit like that. And I'm like, okay, maybe those are the guys that I fit in with. And then I see that like they're all wearing like jeans and like combat boots and like have like boot knives and shit. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
maybe that's a little too hard for me. And then I look around, I see the normies, and I'm like, well, I'm not a normie, god damn it. I
Right.
can't hang out with them.
I'm my own secret fourth thing.
Exactly. And then, I ended up feeling like really alienated because of that.
Yeah.
Because I am an over emotional wreck. But yeah, and then like I realized that what was completely off fucking mean for like my like experience growing up, um, was like super tame
Yeah.
compared to everybody else that came from like this walk of life and shit.
Yeah.
And of course, like that gave me a huge amount of anxiety because like I was I was too hardcore for my scene,
Hmm.
but I was too much of a normie for like the actual hardcore scene. And I realized that like I couldn't perform masculinity properly for like the like CMFD motherfuckers that were like Pantera and shit.
Hmm.
But then like I couldn't perform I think you used metrosexual earlier, which by the
Yeah.
way is such a fucking wild that we came up with a phrase for
Yeah.
like what happens when guys shower regularly
Right.
and like take care of their skin.
Yeah. It was like
Um
2 years when that was the word, you know?
right, and it was so bad. It was so bad to be
Men
considered metro.
men dress nice. Okay.
Right? And they shower, they exfoliate, they take
Yeah.
care of their hair. Like when I was in my fucking early to mid 20s and I started like realizing that when you condition your fucking hair, girls think that it's really great and they start talking to you because you have amazing hair.
Yeah.
Which, thanks mom and dad for like these luscious locks that you gave me. And then I started being like, okay, well, I'm gonna get some conditioner and shit. And then
Yeah.
I go and I get conditioner, and like now I've got a two-step shampoo or hair care product like
Yeah.
routine, and I'm over here just like, oh, is this gay? Does this make me like metro or gay or something that like I'm cleaning my hair with more than one product?
That was, God, that used to be such the fear was, is this gay?
Yeah,
Will this make me gay? And just in the 2000s, that's, it's crazy how far we have come in some respects, but then looking at the state of the world and
yeah.
like, we've gained that little bit of ground and then gone back to the fucking dark ages in terms of rights and safety for LGBTQ plus
Right.
folks.
Well, and that was something that I always found really interesting about like when we talk about masculinity in like a trad sense.
Hmm.
Being gay is bad, which is really weird to me because like I don't know, I feel like if you're a man who likes being a man, it would make sense that you would also, I don't know, maybe love men. And like, if you love men, does that not mean that you love masculinity? Because like you're into men. So like therefore, like masculinity and all that is like a good thing for you. Why is that the worst masculine thing you can be? Like it to me, it feels like they are it to me it feels like queer people in general, and especially like our trans homies,
Yeah.
they have a better grasp on what our gender is than we fucking do. Because like as a cis man, I have always known like what it means to be a man personally for me. I have people that
Hmm.
I can look to as like examples of those things and shit like that. And it also helps that it was fucking beat into me constantly
Yep.
as a younger person. But then you sit there and like you realize that there is this whole group of people that were born not male, but they feel like a man inside. So therefore, they try to figure out how can I become this thing that I know that I am in a societal way.
Yeah.
So they study it
Yeah.
and they fucking investigate it and they figure out if that's what they want and they test it. They test it out for a little while with like pronoun usage and shit like that. And one of the things that I've learned just in the course of doing this and in the course of doing my masculinity work and
Hmm.
like community work and shit like that is that if you want to know like what masculinity looks like outside of yourself, go talk to a trans man
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
just ask them what is a man, because like so far of the episodes of this that I've done where I've asked everybody what is a man, the one of the only people who has come up with a fairly concise, understandable, like I could agree with that answer is a trans man.
Who
Shout out Eddie, by the
who
way. Thank you again
probably
for editing this, by the way, bud.
who probably put the most, yeah, the most thought
Hmm.
and work into
Years from
what
what he was saying.
being a man is,
Hmm.
because like I'm again the American dream of two kids, white picket fence, cis hetero guy, married. I I never had that struggle, and I can't imagine that struggle of having to go, yeah, for years, decades, for how long to develop that sense
Hmm.
of what it means to be a man and become that, which I mean, nothing but love and respect. And I think especially in these really fraught times when trans people are, they're just being demonized, and it's like they're going on a journey of self-discovery,
Hmm.
and it's not affecting you, except that maybe you're looking at it and becoming insecure.
Well, and I think that like so when you look at like hegemonic gendered culture and shit like
Hmm.
that, where it's like we have specific roles that people are supposed to fill and all that,
Hmm.
when you start to like transgress across those lines, it makes it more difficult for you for like media and like the people who are in charge of things to find the ways to divide us.
Yeah.
If there is no certain way to perform masculinity, then there is not a standard that I can force you to adhere to and then
Right.
judge you and make you feel bad if you do not adhere to it. And for me, I feel like trans people in general represent a move away from that hegemonic framework of masculinity and of gender that we have been indoctrinated to believe is the only way to go. It's a certain word that starts with a P. We all know what it is, but don't worry, we're not going to say it because I know it's very scary for some people. But when we look at trans people and the way that they are transgressing across
Yep.
those lines, it completely takes away all the power that those hegemonic power structures hold. Because if I can't tell you that you're performing something incorrectly and then make you insecure so that you then police other people, then that means I have no power over you anymore.
Yeah.
I have no power over what makes you feel the way that you can be the most benefit to society, yourself, and your community. And
Hmm.
instead, you're going to be focused on these stupid fucking bullshit things that don't fucking matter that you're going to then enforce on other people. Whereas a trans person is like, fuck that.
Hmm.
No, like I'm going to keep the parts of this that are good and I'm going to get rid of all the bullshit that isn't. And the reason why I can do that is because I didn't get socialized in this hegemonic viewpoint that says that whatever this version of masculinity that I've been taught is the correct one. And I think that when we look at like who stands to threaten this system the most, it is the people who have taken the roles that this system has tried to enforce and
Hmm.
completely flips them on their head.
Yeah.
And that's part of the reason why, like, trans women are some of the most in danger people on the entire planet because they take what this power structure has said is the best, which is a hetero white man, and like they are saying, I see that man is the best in this society, and I don't fucking want that.
Yeah.
Despite the fact of that Western society tells us that we are constantly needing to make it and climb this ladder of hierarchy that we have, the idea that you would willingly take yourself from this position of power in the hierarchy and quote unquote give that power up to transgress your gender into woman completely flies in the face of everything that Western imperialist capitalist society has told us is the correct and right way to do things. And that's part of the reason why I feel like trans people are absolutely the best people to lead us into a future where gender roles actually make sense for the fucking world that we live in.
Yeah, I mean, no argument here on any of that really. And I think one of the things that I view as my duty as a man, especially in this time, is to check in on my trans homies. My I know a fair amount of lesbians, queer people in general, and it's to try to be that safe place. And I don't want. I keep thinking like hunted for sport is the word is the phrase that comes to mind.
Yeah.
If it's not happening, it seems like it might soon. They're
Mm-hmm.
under attack, and it's using whatever ounce of privilege that I have to be able to provide a sense of safety for somebody else,
Mm-hmm.
I think is one of the most masculine things.
Yeah. No, and I agree with that. Like I subscribe to what in my mind at least is a very very traditional sense of masculinity. And that is a person who is protective, is safe, and is welcoming,
Mhm.
but also um, provides a sense of security for the group.
Yeah.
And and that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have a penis and balls in order to be able to exude those traits.
Hmm.
I mean, there are some lesbians that I know that are more of a man than half the men that I have met in my life because they exude these what I ascribe to masculine traits of they are welcoming. They create a sense of security, they create a sense of belonging, and they create a sense of safety that if you're in the group, then you're in the safest place that you can fucking imagine because you
Hmm.
know that people have your back and you know that people are going to accept you for who you are. If you are outside that group, you're fine. But if you fuck with this group, we will fuck you up.
Yeah.
And that to me is a masculine trait, even if it's coming from somebody who isn't a man. And like I feel like as especially as cis men,
Hmm.
we have a responsibility to exude that specific performance of masculinity more than I think queer people do.
Yep.
Because when it comes to where the danger is more than likely going to come from, take a snapshot of this exact scene and you will see what those people will look like.
Yeah.
Either A, they will look like me, a cis white man with long hair and a beard, or B, they will look like them, which is a cis white man with glasses and a mustache.
Yeah.
So it's one of those
Yep.
things like we are the oppressive class at the end of the day, especially in Western civilization, because society, regardless of whether or not we fit into the class aspect of it,
Hmm.
Society is specifically designed to benefit and to work for us. So therefore, we have a responsibility to create a system that helps other people to get ahead in the same way, if not easier, than it is for us to get ahead. Because we've had fucking 300 years at least of being the top dog. So at the very least we can do now is make a little bit more room for other people.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I always see so much like hand wringing of, oh, men, we need to be the leaders. I don't, you need to make room for other people to lead, and you
Mhm.
need to be able to hear a good idea from somebody else
That doesn't look like you.
that doesn't look like you and support it.
Hmm.
So people, they talk about like, oh, DEI quotas, that's just going to put unqualified people who look different than a white man in
It doesn't
power. It's
change the qualities. It changes the fucking hiring process
right. And
or the interview
that's,
process.
yeah. And it's very much, you got to just be open to the fact that people who look different, they're not lesser individuals, and you need to be willing to see your power. It's not that you're making yourself less, it's that you are bringing somebody up. And there's nothing better than that, is to help others along.
Hmm.
Like that really should be the goal of society. Men, in this time specifically, white men, lifting others and their voices and their ideas and supporting that and being like, you know what? I have power, I have privilege. Let me use that to help you, to give you a platform, not in some, white savior type of way, but in a to build others up in a genuine way.
Yeah, and like it's really the basis of community at
Yeah.
the end of the day. And like I think that that's one of the things that Western society has tried to move us away from. Whenever we talk about Western versus Eastern society, that is one of the like chief differences
Hmm.
that I think between the two that is the most striking is that like when you look at a lot of Eastern kind of mentalities of people, there is a sense of like what benefits the community the most. What can I do that will help, the whole what can I do to raise the tide
Yeah.
so all the boats can be lifted?
Yep.
And whereas the hyper individualism of the West, especially the American West, um, has basically what can I do to benefit myself? And I've been thinking about this quote for the last like 2 fucking weeks. It's been rolling in my damn head. And it's the ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. I believe that was JFK that said that.
That was.
And like it's really wild to me that we had like a leader, a cis het white fucking male in the White House who was kind of bringing that like Eastern mentality of like, we are not supposed to be serving ourselves, especially as the government. We are supposed to be like servicing everyone else,
Hmm.
and our government is just us. So we are actively putting into it so that we can benefit everyone. And he got killed for it.
Yeah.
So CIA killed him. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. I am 100% in that conspiracy theory of JFK was killed because the people in power thought he was changing shit too well. Um,
So, can I just
yeah,
contrast what JFK said, the quote you just said? Do
hit me with
you
it.
do you recall what George W. Bush said after 9/11? What he told Americans to do? He told them to go out and buy stuff because if the economy slows down, the terrorists have won.
fucking win. Oh my God.
And
Yeah, I had forgotten about that.
I think it was buy Hummers. That was the thing. That was you wanted people to go out and buy Hummers to
Wow.
not be afraid to go out and consume.
That is a memory that I did not know had been like locked in here. But yeah, no, I remember that now.
It's the most insane response because that could have been a moment. That was a JFK moment. It was go out and buy a Hummer. Get
Yeah,
it.
like go
Get
buy
it.
shit.
Yeah.
Capitalism. Do the
Yeah.
capitalism. Wow. Yeah, no, and that's absolute and that's a really good fucking point, I think. Because like when we look at the time of this country, whenever we were quote unquote at our best, or at least whenever it seemed like there was the most opportunity,
Hmm.
we had leaders who were talking about community and like what we can do to benefit as many people as possible within the country. And then you fast forward to where we're at now, and everybody's just like, well, what can we do to benefit us? What
Yeah.
can we do to benefit? Or if we are benefiting the whole, it's the whole economy or the
Right.
whole stock market.
Yep.
I can't tell you how many fucking arguments I've had about people with people that are just like, the stock market's doing great. What are you complaining about? And I'm just like, I don't know. The fact of I can't afford my fucking electric bill. Like, you're
Yeah.
right. You're right. There's a bunch of fucking billionaires that are making money hand over fucking fist and trading it back and forth because AI is the future or whatever. But
Yeah.
but yeah, you're right. You're right. The economy's doing fucking great.
Yeah.
But we have people starving to death. But sure. So, given that you are a father, one question that I am curious about, what lessons and behaviors do you believe are essential for the next generation? I mean, we kind of delved into it a little bit, I think, but I kind of want to drill down a little bit further on specifics of like with your kids, what lessons are you kind of taking from your own experiences and seeing like toxic masculinity and
Hmm.
seeing like bad expressions of masculinity and shit like that. Like, what are you doing for your kids and lessons are you teaching them to try and like course correct those sorts of things?
Yeah. So, couple of things. One thing is teaching my kids about consent from a
Okay,
very early
fair.
age.
Absolutely fair.
Yeah, I mean, for my daughter, I mean, she needs to know what consent is for her,
Hmm.
to make sure she's not taken advantage of. And for my son to know, when someone says no,
Hmm.
you stop that behavior.
Yeah.
And to instill that in a very early age. I mean, and like my son, he's kind of a barrel-chested, bit of a bruiser, uh, but he's also the most tender boy in the whole world. And so for
I
him,
hope he never loses that.
yeah,
Truly.
I mean, that is my goal in life is to make sure he doesn't, and that he like he becomes that big kid who makes people feel safe.
Yeah.
And so teaching them consent, I think, is huge. Another thing, um, this might just be a bit more general about stuff men need to do, but they men especially need to be okay with being vulnerable,
Mm.
and they need to learn how to handle rejection in an emotionally appropriate way. And so, I mean, for the kids, that starts at like, it's okay to lose this game. You know
Yeah.
what? It's okay to lose. It's okay to not get your way. You can feel sad about that. It doesn't necessitate a tantrum. It doesn't
Yeah.
necessitate these huge feelings. You can feel those feelings. There's an appropriate way to let them out. And
Yeah.
I think speaking more broadly outside of my kids, like men in general do not know how to handle failure or rejection.
Yeah.
And that's that has very serious consequences.
100%.
Yeah, so
Like,
that's
just to speak to that a little bit, I mean, even as much work as I have done with as much stuff as internally and the books that I've read
hmm
and the fucking papers and the fucking theses and all this other kind of shit
hmm
around all of this stuff, I still have an abject fear of failure.
yeah,
Like, I have an abject fear of being seen as a failure.
hmm
I have an abject fear of like not knowing the right solution to a problem, and that makes me less of a useful person. And like, because I'm a man, which I found it really funny in Encanto, how like there was a female character or a woman character
hmm
that was singing about being of service, and like I feel like I'm worthless if I can't be of
hmm
service and all that kind of shit. And like, while I understand that, yes, that's like an empowering thing for like women and all that kind of stuff, like I would argue that that's also like a pressure that like we as men feel as well on a daily basis. And I know that I feel it especially,
hmm
where it's like, because I am quote unquote the man of my house or whatever, then there is an expectation that like I should have all the answers. I
hmm
should know what the solutions to these problems are going to be, and I should know like how to handle this stuff innately. And like if I don't, I fucking panic.
yeah,
Like I'm like this like makes me question my role in the household. This makes me question my role like in this family and shit like that. When the reality of the situation is, it's just like, dude, if you don't know how to do this thing, like it's cool. We can just
yeah,
talk about it and figure it the fuck out, because that's
yeah,
what community, that's what family, that's what a household does. So yeah, like I think that that's like super important. Is like teach your kid, teach men how to fail
yeah,
and be okay with it.
yes.
Because like the God damn it, there's a fucking quote that I can think of that I have in my brain. I can't think to who to attribute it to, but it's like, in order to reach one success, one must fail 1,000 times.
Yeah,
But yeah, like we need to learn how to fail, and we need to learn how to be okay with it. We need to learn how to like not expect perfection in everything. Um and yeah, like one of the things that you had mentioned about like consent, that kind of keyed me off as like something else to kind of pivot to. How were you taught consent? What were you taught? Like, let's say that you're having the birds and the bees conversation, which, all of us had, and none of our parents ever ignored those conversations whatsoever. How was consent explained to you, or was it?
I'm sure that I was given a vague notion
Mhm.
that no means no. I can't recall a specific anything concrete about
Yeah.
consent. It was just kind of assumed, and it was just don't. So I grew up, yeah, evangelical purity culture was a huge thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, where yeah, so it was very much you weren't supposed to date anybody until you were ready to marry them, and you weren't supposed to be alone with girls, and they were this very pure thing, but also they were, a little bit of Jezebels there that were trying to tempt you.
Yep.
So a lot of conflicting messages around consent and just sex generally.
What were you taught about grape?
Very little, to be honest. I think that I was mostly taught that it was, stranger danger. It was
Yeah. Did you
weird.
have anybody in your community or circle or anything like that, or even in your church, that dealt with any kind of assaults?
So I think someone in my high school class did that I know about. I'm sure, yeah, and here's the thing. I am sure there are a lot of girls, women from that age, I'm thinking back to high school now,
Mhm.
who experienced it, and I didn't know.
Yeah,
So,
I know there are some who experienced it and they didn't know.
yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
So my reason for asking that is because my experience with those things in my evangelical upbringing was very much more the Jezebel thing that you were talking about,
Yeah.
where it's like grape and assaults happen, but only to like certain people.
Yes.
And like it's not necessarily a moral failing on their part, but if they wouldn't have done this certain thing, then things wouldn't have happened or whatever. And like that instilled in me a sense of like, well, if this shit just happens because these people are dressed a certain way, does that mean it's going to happen to me? That
Yeah.
like I'm all of a sudden one day I'm gonna see a hemline or a panty line and just my fucking mind is just gonna fucking leave me because only
Right.
monsters do those sorts of things. And then lo and behold, we had an incident happen in our town, 500 people, mind you,
Yeah.
and suddenly, well, wait a minute, I thought it was like a monstrous thing, and like you're a terrible person. Well, no, he's not a terrible person because he did it. It's just like, she was like leading him on and all this. And I'm just like, well, if I know this guy and
Hmm.
like if he's such a good dude and he can be led on and effectively bamboozled into assaulting somebody, well, what fucking hope do I have?
Right.
And
Right.
then all of a sudden at 16, I accidentally burst into a fucking room at my friend's house while we're all getting ready to go to the pool. And I walk in on my friend, her younger sister, and her older sister who's in college in various states of undress. Because they're changing into like swimsuits and
Yeah.
shit. And I walk in, and immediately my brain just goes, "Oh fuck, private moment. I should
Yeah.
go," and then pull the
Yep.
door closed. But then after that, I was like, "Oh shit." I am so lucky that I didn't just lose my mind and
Right.
just like grape these women because like that's how it starts, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, and it gave me this like innate fear of like what I now recognize as an active choice that people are making was something that was beyond my control and that was something that I would have to lose my mind or something. And the reason why that would happen is because these Jezebels or these women dress
Mhm.
in certain ways. Was that something you ever had to deal with?
Yeah, that seems like a pretty accurate description, similar to what I had. As you were talking, I distinctly remember a teacher in high school. For some reason, the issue of, you know, is a is a girl is I mean, we're talking about teenagers. So is a girl culpable for if that happens to her? And he used the analogy of like, well, if you start a fire in your living room and it gets out of control, whose fault is that? And at the time, I kind of rolled with it, but then thinking back, I was like, yeah, but the fire doesn't have its own willpower.
It doesn't
It's
spontaneously
r
start.
right, like a fire can't choose what it does, but a man can.
Mhm.
And a woman or a girl dressing a certain way, that doesn't mean that she should be assaulted for it.
Exactly. And like the funny thing about purity culture in evangelical Christianity, especially at least as far as, southern that I
Yeah.
can speak to, is that like we give culpability to the person who chooses to do the act up until the act actually happens. And
Yes.
then we make excuses for why that person isn't actually culpable.
Yes, it's, oh, they should have not been in that situation. They should have
What was
not
she
been alone. Yeah, and then
wearing?
it's
Yeah.
what was she wearing? And then it's, oh, all of a sudden there's all this nuance and
Mm-hmm.
there's all sorts of gray area, which is funny because evangelicals don't thrive in gray areas. They like things very black and white,
Yep.
but I
Unless it
mean,
comes to those sorts of things.
unless it comes to something that could have negative repercussions for a man.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And that's like let's see, how far are we into this? Okay, cool. I think we can safely say it now. That's that patriarchal bullshit that
Yeah,
we've been fucking skirting around this entire time. I try to keep it out of the first like 45 minutes.
right.
But like that's again like those patriarchal expectations and where I think that Christianity especially has been co-opted by imperialistic patriarchy.
Hmm.
Because like when you sit there and you look at where a lot of this like purity culture shit comes from and where a lot of this like the culpability of an assault being on the assaultee and not the assaulter,
Hmm.
it all comes from this patriarchal expectation that if a man does something, it's always correct, it's always right, and it's always good.
Yeah,
And if he does something that is bad or not good, then there's obviously an outside force acting upon them.
yeah,
And that comes down to the idea that when you're at the top of the fucking power ladder, the expectation is that you can do no wrong.
yeah,
When the reality is, we uh, are the ones that have done all of the wrong as imperialists, hegemonic white people.
yep.
Um, all right, so last thing that I wanted to ask you, especially because of your home life and all that,
Hmm.
um, how does your home life work? Is there like gender roles that exist? And if there are, like, is it something that you guys naturally kind of fell into, or do you have the expectations that you have based on what society has told you you're supposed to do?
So that's an interesting question. And I think our roles have evolved over time because I we've been married now 11 and a half years, I want to say.
Nice.
Yes,
Congratulations. 10 years
yes.
is one hell of a hump to get over.
Yeah. Yeah, and so when we first got married, I was still an alcoholic. So for the
Mm,
first, I think, 2 years of our marriage, I was an alcoholic, and that really sucked
mm,
for me and for her a
yeah.
lot. And then once I got sober, I put a lot of work into becoming a better person, becoming a better man. And so things have shifted and changed and evolved because I have grown. My relationship with my wife has grown. She's grown as well. So she works part-time as a nurse.
Okay.
So she works fewer hours than I do. So she is home more often. So her role, we consider, she's kind of like the primary parent. She's the one that kind of knows everything because she has the time
Yeah.
to know a lot and to plan it out. We take turns putting the kids to bed. She did it tonight. On night she works, I do it. Sometimes she's like, "You're gonna need to put them to bed," and I'm like, "Fine, I love it. It's extra
Yeah.
time with them." So that just came about of like, for a while she was doing it all the time when they were young,
Yeah.
and they would only do it for her. But eventually she was like, "I can't do this alone." I said, "Perfect, I'm here. I love my children. I love spending time with them. I get to snuggle and read books and put them to bed. Who wouldn't want that?"
Right.
So while she's putting them to bed, tonight I was doing all the cleaning downstairs. I'm doing all the dishes. I'm cleaning everything so it looks nice. She is typically more handy around the house. So if something needs to be fixed or, put up, she's the one with the power tools and she loves it. Yeah,
The scandal.
I know. Yeah, I think so. There are gender elements within our roles, but it's come
That's not how
about.
you got them.
It's not how it got there. It was never like, well, you're doing all that. You're doing the kid stuff. Well, I just, clean the garage.
Hmm.
And I think one of the things that I have done to make myself a better man is to notice things.
Oh, okay.
Because I think
Expand on that.
yeah, so a lot of stuff around the house. It's like small stuff and it will build up.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
for a long time, I didn't do anything about it. I had other stuff going on. I was like, oh, it's small. But over the course of our relationship, I found that A, it's just easy to do it.
Yeah.
It doesn't take that long to pick up small stuff or to do this minor fix or, oh, the bathroom's getting dirty. Just clean it. It only takes a couple of minutes. I found that when I do that, it really makes my wife happy
Yeah.
because otherwise she's the one doing it and she does a lot. I do a lot too, but she does a lot.
Yeah.
And so just noticing and taking initiative is huge.
Yeah. No, and that's just in the time that I have lived with women, in the times that I've lived with femme presenting people or femme socialized people,
Yeah.
and shit like that. I've kind of noticed that like there is a natural thought process to, especially the way that I was raised, where
Hmm.
it's like if I see something, I acknowledge it in my brain, but I don't acknowledge it as something that is my responsibility
Yeah.
right off
Yeah.
tip. And like you say, because it's something small, then it's just like, oh, well, it's small, so it doesn't matter. And besides, like that's not really my area anyway.
Right.
So, and then like I don't know, something like clicked at some point in time, probably like 6 years ago or something. Well, probably not 6 years ago because I was with my ex-wife at that time, and to hear her talk about it. So we'll say 5 years ago. Just we'll not involve that guy yet. But like 5 years ago, something clicked in me that it's just like, why? Why do I view, something like the dishes, for instance, and
Hmm.
putting them in the dishwasher and shit? Why do I view that as something that's small, but like not really my responsibility, but like if I got time, I'll get to it or whatever.
Right.
And it's like I realized that at that time that it was like it's that patriarchal expectation that like Holly Homemaker
Hmm.
and like Mike the Welder and shit
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Um and for a long time, like I was kind of like your trad man, where it's like I had a 60-hour a week job, and all that kind of stuff. And like in my marriage, I fell into a lot of those gender roles because we both grew up in the same area. We both
Hmm.
grew up with the same like values and all that kind of shit. So we just fell into these natural roles that we understood to be what they were.
Yeah.
And then I found out after 10 years that like she was real fucking sick of the weaponized incompetence that
Yeah.
I was having,
Yes.
and full transparency, I didn't think it was weaponized incompetence. I realize it is now, but it's something that like I was just kind of naturally doing because it's
Yeah.
what I was taught. It's how masculinity was presented to me as a learning model.
Yeah.
So it's like figuring out that like these things don't have a gender, and that the at the end of the day, community is built around the idea of if you see it needs to be done, do it.
Hmm.
If
Yeah.
if you have the capability and you see it, do it.
Yep.
Not because it benefits you, not because it benefits somebody else, but because it's just the right fucking thing to do. because
Absolutely.
we're all trying to move forward, and if we're trying to like honor our ancestors' sacrifices, the thousands of people in just your fucking specific familial line who have died for you to fucking be here,
Hmm.
it kind of flies in the face of everything that they've been fucking that they fought for, that they died for, that they evolved for, to just come up there and be like, that's not my thing. I understand it would benefit my household, it would benefit my community, it would benefit my neighbor, it would benefit my wife, my kids, whoever, but that's not my thing
Right.
because like, that's woman's work or whatever. Um, and I think that like I don't know, one of the lessons that I feel like I try to teach future generations of people um is just like be more community minded.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, community, whether it be your familial community, whether it be your friend community, whether it be your neighborhood, whether it be your city, whether it be your state, whether it be your country,
Hmm.
like I mean, dial back a little bit on the country part.
Yeah.
Nationalism's not great
Yeah.
overall. But like doing things that will benefit the most people in those groups is always, to me at least, is always the correct manly masculine thing to
Hmm.
do because it's the correct human thing to do.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, a good man is a good human. A
Yeah.
good woman is a good human. And if we all try to be good fucking humans, I feel like we might figure this gender thing the fuck out.
Yes. Yeah.
Maybe that's what the answer is. What is a man? A a human fucking being
Trying
that
to,
identifies as a fucking man.
yes.
And if
Yeah.
what is a good man? A good version of a human being that identifies as a fucking man.
Yes. Yeah, I think so. Before we part, I got two pieces of advice I think that men should listen. So first off, well, so three things. So first off was I talked about be okay with being uncomfortable, with
Yep.
being vulnerable. The second is do something for yourself. Have a hobby. I think every person should have a hobby and something that they are passionate about. Please try not to monetize it either. um, you know,
Look, Paul, I need you to stop calling me out directly right now, you
yeah,
fucker.
it's real tough trying to, exist in this capitalist hellscape, but
It's so fucking
just
shitty, man. It's so shitty.
it's the word. It's so bad. And I'm sort of at the top of, it not being bad for my specific class, and it still really fucking sucks.
Yeah.
But I think men should take joy in things for themselves. I think of this, the one Andrew Tate thing I saw, it was him complaining about how making a sandwich is a waste of time because it's a terrible return on investment. It's just a time waster. He could be using that time to make money, you know. And I just thought, this person has no joy in their life. They've never done anything that sustains their passion or creativity.
Yeah.
So I
I'm
think
also just trying to figure out like why making food is a bad return on investment. Like you're making food so that you can continue to survive.
because you could be trafficking women instead during that time.
Yeah, right.
Honestly, yeah,
You could be trafficking and beating women,
yeah.
which apparently for him at least is a more important use of his time.
But so I saw that and I thought, cooking brings me such joy. I love
Yeah.
cooking. I love cooking by myself. I love cooking with my kids. So do something, a hobby, something that you engage with that refills your cup. And the other one is do something for others. I mean, volunteer, be a part of your community, be engaged. There are clubs and groups everywhere, and joining them can be uncomfortable. It can be awkward. You can face rejection, but you should still go out and do something in the community and try to give back. Because at the end of the day, all we have is each other.
Mhm.
So
I would
that's,
I would also I would also like just kind of expand that just a little bit and just be like be a part of your community.
yes, yeah,
Because like one of the ways that like patriarchy tries to define us is by our isolation and
hmm
by like stoicism in general. Like and I saw this thing the other day with Pierce Morgan on a Surrounded where he was like the leftists are saying that like stoicism is bad. And like stoicism is good in its own way. It has
yeah.
beneficial thought, but it's like don't fucking take it too fucking far.
It's
Um
Jordan Peterson all over again. There is the kernel of a
exactly.
good idea. There's a core of a good idea, and then it's surrounded by, it's
Just
wrapped up
bullshit.
in such bullshit. Focus on the core message and
Yeah.
just try to ignore the red pill trappings that it gets caught up in.
Lost in, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and like and yeah, and like to kind of your point with the idea of like being a part of a community and shit like that, like it's really fucking hard. Like I am I work in a metaphysical shop
hmm
here locally, and one of the things that is huge in our community is that it's very, very, very women dominated.
hmm
Um, and because of that, like there's a lot of men and like as a cis man who works in a queer owned femme presenting shop with a lot of femme customers, like I don't know, it's kind of hard to like connect with other dudes and shit like that in that community. And so that's why I have actively been trying to create a like men's circle within that community to try and like provide those resources for my local community. And that has been one of the most fulfilling and also one of the most heartbreaking things that I've ever endeavored in my life to do
Yep.
because I've been trying to get the meetings together for the last 2 months. Both times, nobody showed because one, timing was not great. I mean, the 28th of January or the 28th of December is definitely not a great time to do those because, you know, holidays and shit.
Yeah.
So I kind of chalk it up a little bit to that, but it's really like I'll admit it was really disheartening
Yeah.
to just like set all this up, have a meeting, a topic, like come up with a ritual to do and like all
hmm
this stuff and then nobody shows up. But like to me, that's one of the ways that like as a man I can present in the world that is a healthy way. That's where that tenacity comes from.
Yeah.
Where it's just like am I gonna do another one? Absolutely. In 2 days, we have another men's circle. If you're in Fort Worth, please come by. Which this isn't gonna come out before that does, so I don't know why the fuck I said that. Um,
Travel back in time.
right? Travel back in time. But if you are watching this, it's probably February. February's probably hasn't happened. Uh, but anyway, but yeah, like it's something that I'm still going to stick with because I recognize it is a beneficial thing for my community and frankly, it's a beneficial thing for me.
Yep.
I feel a sense of fulfillment knowing that I am providing something that people may not have access to in the past or may not have had access to in the past, but can have access to it now. And like, I don't know, I've been told by a number of people that like I'm a fairly decent man. And it's very hard for my ADHD and traumatized ass to accept that, but at the same time, I feel like as a man and as what I want to be is a good man,
hmm
I have a sense of communal responsibility to try and make my community better. And that's one way that I can do that.
100%.
So, like, great advice that I can give practical application for. Well, Paul, thank you so much for taking the time today, man. This has been an exceptionally fun conversation. And yeah, I really appreciate you taking the time and giving me your insights. I'm gonna ask you to come on again at some point in time.
Perfect. Cannot wait.
Um, but yeah, last thing, pitch what you're doing. Tell how does Sean Evans say that? This camera, this camera, this camera. Tell people what you're working on or whatever.
All right. Well, check out the podcast Men Metal Mayhem. That is Men Menn. It's our last name. We are on Spotify, YouTube, Instagram, and Threads. We're easy to find. We got season 1 and 2, Soilwork and Nevermore, a couple one-offs, and we're coming out with season 3, which is subtitled Jesus Freaks, where we dive into a wider range of Christian metal, and we dive deep into our evangelical upbringing. So check it out. I think you'll really enjoy it.
I saw a post that you made on Threads that I was gonna ask you about during this conversation. I fucking forgot about it.
Oh,
But that is something that we could get into the next time that I have you on because
man.
I'm very curious to know your interactions with DC talk.
Oh,
Anyway, thank you all for joining us tonight or today, tonight, this morning, whenever you're listening to it. I don't know. These things are weird. But yeah, thank you for joining us tonight. We greatly appreciate it. We will see y'all later, and stay safe out there.
Thank you guys so much for watching this video or listening to this audio if you're listening to the podcast. I just wanted to pop on to properly credit that the music is Chillin' Hard by Kevin MacLeod. He's super cool, has an awesome website, and we will be including his full URL in the description of whatever website you are watching this off of. Thank you so much again for watching or listening, and have a good day.